Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendall and I'm obsessed with neutral eyeshadows. So with that being said, I am here to review the brand new Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. Yes, there are a lot of people on the internet that don't want to see another neutral eyeshadow palette. I'm not one of them. I am so obsessed with neutral shades, and I am also obsessed with Anastasia as a brand and their eyeshadow palettes, so of course I had to have this in my life. So today I'm going to show you guys swatches of this palette. I'm going to show you the look that I created today, kind of give you my thoughts on it, and also just briefly compare it to the other 14 pan eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection from them. I call them the Velvets. They're the ones with the velvet packaging. This one does not have velvet packaging. This one is, I believe, the first one to ever have glittery packaging. This is a $45 palette. I believe it is available on Anastasia right now. I am going to leave links down below when it does become available on other websites so you guys can shop around and pick where you want to buy it from. I believe it is on a wait list right now, and I know a lot of you guys are waiting for my review in order to pick up this palette, which I really appreciate that you trust my opinion, so here I am. So let's take a moment to just take it all in. And for those of you that are like me and are kind of tired of seeing greens and mustard yellows and other colors like that, today's our day. So obviously this is a full-on neutral palette minus the one kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like a nectarine color in the shade Bloom. It's like kind of peachy coral, I guess I would call it. There is one of those in the palette, but it is a beautiful shade. And then the rest of them are straight up bronzy neutrals, but with a twist. I believe that this one is a little bit more cool toned than some of the previous Anastasia palettes. So I am wearing this on my eyes today, so I can kind of give you guys my first impression on the formula because I did use a bunch of these shades on my eyes. And so far it's a lot less fallout-y than other previous Anastasia shadows. So they are equally as pigmented, but they don't have as much fallout, which I think a lot of us were looking for that from Anastasia, so I do appreciate that. This one kind of, to me, resembles the Modern Renaissance formula, but a little bit less fallout even than that palette. So looking at the website and the descriptions of these shades, they call the mattes ultra mattes and they call the shimmers metallics. So none of them are labeled as like an ultra metallic or a foiled or anything like that. They're just metallics and ultra mattes. So here you guys can see what we're working with in the Sultry palette. Very beautiful, very neutral. I don't have a ton to say about the actual colors because none of them really stand out except for that Bloom shade, which I think is nice to have it in there, but I kind of wish that it was another shade of brown, but that's just me. Now I know that a ton of you guys actually have a bunch of the Anastasia palettes in your collection already, so I did want to compare a few that I have in case you guys were wondering if you needed this in your life. So here is a quick glance at Soft Glam, and then we have the Sultry. So I don't really see them as being too awful similar. They are neutral palettes together, but I feel like this has a little bit more to work with. I love them both though. You guys know I'm a sucker for these. So here's a comparison of Soft Glam and Sultry. Here are the Subculture and Prism palettes. I don't think that they are comparable at all, but I did want to show them to you. We have Subculture on top, Prism on the bottom. I do have a comparison video. In my Subculture review, I compared these two palettes. Next, we have Modern Renaissance. So as you can see, this is a mostly warm-toned eyeshadow palette, which is what sets these apart. This has more metallic colors in it as well, and this is more along the lines of a warm-toned reddish, like berry, fallish look. It also has a brick color in it, and so this Sultry palette is definitely more of a neutral palette than the Modern Renaissance, but I do think they have very similar formulas, but here is the comparison for you. Here is Norvina. I do believe this palette kind of stands alone. It is very unique. It has pinks, purples, kind of orangish colors. It also has a matte brow bone and a shimmer brow bone and some dark shades to deepen up the look. So I love this as well. I also have an in-depth review on this palette, but here it is in comparison to Sultry. I do think they are similar, but they have a lot of differences. Again, Sultry is very, very neutral. If you want an all-over neutral eyeshadow palette that you can reach into every single day, doesn't have a lot of color in it, you're gonna love Sultry. So I think first I'm gonna give you guys a little clip of these swatches that I took of this palette, and then at the end of this video, I will show you how I got this makeup look. But first, let's take a look at the gorgeous swatches. All right guys, so here are the swatches. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know that Dystopian was the worst one to swatch, and Twig was the absolute best matte that I've ever swatched. But obviously, you know my feelings on swatches. I feel like they only show you the color and the texture and the pigmentation, but they don't show you obviously how it applies to the eyes. And my personal experience with Anastasia shadows is that they've been very, very consistent within a palette. So all of these are pretty much consistent. I just had a little bit of trouble swatching the Dystopian matte shade. So as you can see, the swatches are very, very beautiful. It's a beautiful color scheme. I didn't want to dig too deep into the powders, so really each swatch was maybe 1 or 2 swipes with a very gentle pressure, because this is the palette after swatching and it's still fairly clean. Sometimes I really go hard in my swatches, but I did not want to do that today. One thing I do mention in all of my Anastasia reviews, and I still find this to be true, is that the dual-ended brush inside the palette is actually very, very useful. Don't throw it away. It is a really good blending brush and also a really good packing brush. I love the brush that is in these palettes. I leave them in my palettes and I use them, and I really should probably clean them all. So those were the swatches. Those were generally most of my thoughts on the palette. You guys will see it in action in the tutorial portion of this video, but I hope that my review is helpful for you guys. I hope that you like it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you do. I do have another palette that I want to review for you guys. This is like the season of neutral palettes, but I have the Kylie Cosmetics X Jordan. This is a palette that is next on my list if you guys want to subscribe and stick around to see all of my reviews. But now let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial where I use this palette for the first time to create a basic ass eye look. I'm gonna pop this brush out of here so I can show you the palette without it being touched. Here it is in all of its beautiful unswatched glory. I'm gonna start with a big fluffy blending brush. This is the E40 from Sigma, out of my favorites set. So for a transition shade, we kind of have 2 options in the palette. Twig, which is more of a cool tone, and Birch, which is more of a warm tone. I am gonna go in with Birch today. So this right here is Twig, this is Birch. I'm gonna go in with this shade and blend this in my crease right onto the lid, everywhere as a base. First impression, this actually doesn't have as much fallout as some of the previous palettes. It's a manageable amount of pickup when you tap into the shade. So here you might be able to see it's not a ton of fallout. So I think that right there is going to be a reason why a lot of people reach for this. It's not quite along the lines of the subculture. I think like first impression, it's going to be more along the lines of the modern renaissance. Taking a brush that I would call a little bit more of like a harsh blending brush. This is the Sigma Tapered Blending E35. I'm going to take the same exact shade, but I'm going to focus it in the outer third of the eye. I'm going to go ahead and zoom you guys in for the shimmer portion of this look. The color that I want most prominently all over my lid is the shade right here, Teak. So I'm picking up the Sigma Short Shader E20, and this is what I'm going to pick up and pack on this shade with. First, I'll start without wetting my brush. I don't know if I'm going to need to. With Anastasia shadows, a lot of the time I don't. And I'm packing this all over that lid space. And I'm gonna go in with the E40 and blend that out. Now that shade Teak is actually not quite as metallic as I would have liked it to be, so I'm probably gonna go in and wet my brush and try to get a little bit more vibrancy out of the shade. So I'm gonna pick up a little more of that teak shade and then spray it with Fix Plus and pop it on the center of the lid. That does give a little bit more of a metallic sheen. Really want to make sure that this outer corner of the eye is nice and blown out. Taking a pencil brush in the shade Pearl, I'm going to highlight my brow bone. This reminds me of one of my favorite brow bone highlights, which is Shimma Shimma by Makeup Geek. I'm sure you guys can tell by looking at this palette, but you certainly can find these shades in other palettes or single shadows. It's nothing super special, but I'm a sucker for neutral palettes, so I'm all about palettes like this. Taking a Morphe brush, this is the R43. I like to smudge color underneath my lash line with this brush. I'm gonna take the shade Cinder. Cinder is this shimmery shade right here, and I'm going to drag this underneath my lash line. After that, I'm taking the Sigma E25. This is a blending brush also that is in my favorite set. I'm gonna pick up Birch, the color that we started with, on the corner of this brush just a little bit, and I'm gonna blow out underneath my eye. I really like to cover up my wrinkles that I have under there because you guys, if you've got them, you've got them. They're gonna show. So this, I feel like, works better than actually concealing them. Now I've got my E40 on deck for this, but I'm gonna take with my finger the shade Rose Quartz, and I'm going to dot it right in the center of my lid and then blend it out on the sides with my brush. So I have long nails, so this might be hard, but I'm just going to pick up just a little bit of Rose Quartz and just a little dot right in the middle just to accentuate my lid, kind of make it look a little bit bigger, a little bit rounder. Ooh, I really, really like that combination. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm barely gonna blend out the edges of that. I like the way that made the look kind of pop. Okay, so that's it for the actual eyeshadow. I am going to go ahead and pop on some of my favorite mascara, the Hourglass Extreme Caution Mascara, I believe is what it's called. Yes, Caution Extreme Lash Mascara. And I'm going to pop on Coco Chloe lashes, and I will be back to wrap up my thoughts. Alright you guys, so that is the tutorial. This is the finished look that I got with the Sultry palette for the first time. I really hope that this video helped you make your decision if you need this in your life or not. I obviously stan Anastasia shadows. I purchased them all myself. This is a really beautiful palette. I am going to be reaching into this daily, I think, during the holiday season. This is going to be my new favorite go-to neutral eyeshadow palette right now. I have been using the Tarte Tartelette in Bloom, but I am going to reach for this now because it has what I need in it, which is really great because sometimes neutral palettes don't have a black, sometimes they don't have a brow bone highlight color that I like, and this pretty much has everything that I like, especially the bronzes, rose golds, and just beautiful golds that I can put all over my lid and run out the door with. So I think that's pretty much all that I have to say. Links will be down below where you can purchase this palette if you are interested in it. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me and supporting all of my videos. I love you guys so much. I can't wait to start reviewing some really highly requested products. This, of course, was highly requested, but I have some beautiful products that I want to review on my channel. But I'm gonna wrap up this video now, and hopefully I will see you guys all in my next one. Bye.